It's an interesting concept. It is a lot of times considered to be a buzzword, but then it's a buzzword as long as you do not implement the things which you're thinking around what a digital transformation essentially means for the company. It's also like AI, artificial intelligence. These days, if you would hear, everybody's talking about AI, but then a lot of people think about anything which is data driven could be AI, but that's not really the case. So in that respect, I believe that people who don't really have a good understanding of what digital transformation could really mean, for them it ends up becoming more like a word or buzzword, which essentially could mean anything to everything. But for me, I think what digital transformation really means is that how we can make the processes of a company from, let's say, today physical to a digital tomorrow. It is also about how we can integrate multiple digital technologies, combine it with business processes, which ultimately result in a fundamental shift in the way businesses operate. It is also about a cultural change because none of the digital transformations actually work without people really getting involved and adopting the digital transformation related changes. So it all starts very much at the grassroots level where a business understands that there is a need for them to shift. And then from there on, starting from a functional lead, it goes on to figuring out what really it means with respect to changing the whole way of how a function or the business has to evolve. Today, digital transformation's importance has gone literally to the survival mode of the organization. If you see the pre-COVID times, you would remember that a lot of the companies were doing the operation the same way they used to work for decades in history. Now, as soon as the COVID hit, suddenly things started changing in an enormous fashion. The rate of change of adoption of digital technologies became so important because now every customer wanted to do things online. There was no way of a physical contact. There was no way a person could really go to a store and then buy things for him or her. Now, this leads to a question of whether companies would have been okay to do the business the way they used to, which was not really the case anymore, right? So it really boiled down to the survival instincts for a company. Now, this pandemic led to a complete disruption in a supply chain, right? There was a huge shift into the time to market for the products which were earlier used to take months and months and sometimes years, where people used to say that, I need a website, let's think about it, and then it will take 6 months, 7 months to figure it out and then get it rolling. Those things have completely drastically changed. Customer expectations have drastically changed. If you really see, the global spending on digital transformation alone in 2022 is projected to be around 1.78 trillion US dollars. And we've seen a growth of almost around 18% in 2019 on digital transformation spending. So this just shows that how the things completely moved away from the age-old archaic way of doing the things to a completely renewed way of a newly transformed era, right? So I think it's really interesting and important to understand whether you are ready for future or not. For us, for our group companies, what we started doing long back has really helped us in reaching where we are today. We started on the digital transformation journeys almost 5 to 6 years back. Some companies had done it even before that. So we were actually ready when this pandemic hit us. We were ready with a lot of transformed ways of how we were doing. We, kind of literally took digital technologies across our group companies, across the functions, across the way how we fundamentally used to do the things. We got in the data sciences involved, where we used a lot of optimization engines, a lot of algorithmic based, optimizations on the rationalization of our processes, which really helped us in improving our productivity to a huge extent. So I believe that now, we really have to shift the focus in general because the whole world is moving at such a fast pace. If you don't really take on or catch on the bus right now, you would just end up vanishing in thin air. You would know there are so many examples where the companies which are so mighty once upon a time have completely vanished or are taken over in a way which they are not thought of. So I think it's about understanding that we have to move on. We have to move beyond our old ways of thinking and just take over the bandwagon of the digital world and then accept it wholeheartedly. Because I think it's also about when you do want to do something, there's a fraction of people who are always there to resist the change. But then it's all about saying that, yes, this is important. It should flow in from the leadership. And then the right team has to put forth all their effort to make it happen. So I think we have to really go into that direction now for across the world, across the businesses in general. It is what people would end up implementing. It's an issue which is a people-related issue for an implementation. Think of any journey, of any of the journeys for any of the, let's say, IT projects in any of the organization. I'm talking about IT, but think of it in a broader way where anything which is related to a transformation for an organization ends up depending a lot on the way people get involved. If people do not embrace the whole project wholeheartedly, then no matter what kind of technology you want to bring in, no matter what kind of innovations you want to bring in, this would not succeed, right? So I think it's all about finally boiling down to people issue where the adoption is falling on the shoulders of the people. If people actually take it on and say, yes, we want to do it, let's make the things happen, then it works. So just imagine, just take an example, let's say, a lot of the supermarkets in Sri Lanka, for that matter, were not digital, right? They were not web-based. They were just basing the entire operation on people coming in, walking in the supermarkets, and then buying and going out. They were never keen on the web or the digital deliveries, right? What happened after this COVID? Most of them innovated fairly quickly. They changed their entire way of doing the things. They quickly got out their websites for the people. Each and every one had a different flavor to it, but then they went on to this route. And then that led to the change in the way the back-end operations also used to enact, right? Where people have to be on the toes to see some web orders are coming in. They have to ensure that there's an express, quick delivery required or a regular delivery. The whole supply chain has to kick in accordingly. And all of this depends on people essentially, right? If people think that, no, this is just a temporary thing, we don't need to really worry about it, and we can just be okay. And that leads to complete change dependence on people. So I believe that, people are super important in the whole journey of the transformation, whether it's digital or not. It doesn't really matter. Wherever there's a transformation required, you need to have people adopting it successfully. You have to have people feel it that, yes, this is important for their company and for their own growth. And that's where I believe that it's completely reliant on people's ability to absorb and be ready with the changes, right? So that's very crucial, I believe.